Hi guys, how's it going? Aaron Pettis. I wanted to talk to you guys today about follow up. I've been with Hilco Homes for about 6 months already. I've had four closes just last week, like Wednesday, Thursday, and then this past Monday had three closes. So it took me a while to get my first close, but then my last three closes happened like back to back, boom, boom, boom. And one of them was because of persistent follow up. And I've only been doing it about 6 months, but Marco, and Juan and some other people on the team, they've been doing this a lot longer. And I've seen them close on deals that they were following up on that took them about a year or more to close on because maybe at that particular time when they first talked to the seller, they weren't ready to sell. Or maybe they were going through an eviction. And so they said, well, get with me at the new year, get with me in 6 months or whatever. And so, persistent follow up got them to that close. So that's basically what I've learned is that follow up can happen, and that's what I'm basically doing in my current leads. I'm making sure that I do have a follow up and that I don't let anything go fall through the cracks because a dead lead to somebody else may be just a follow up lead for somebody like me where it's not dead. I just need to continue to follow up and continue to follow up. A lead is not dead until that house has sold. Once that house is sold, then it's dead. But if it hasn't sold yet, then there it means that the potential to follow up is there. For example, one that we closed on last week. I'm sorry, we closed it on Monday. Was a property on Dixon, and basically that one, we had to follow up with the buyer and with the sellers. Basically, what that one is that there was four heirs on this property, and when there's heirs on a property, it makes it hard because there's people who probably haven't even spoken to each other in years. So what it is the person we were talking to, the seller and her grandma, the grandma was married to a husband who basically had children, and so those children were entitled to the property. And so we get to the closing table. They get the closing statement and they email it out to all the heirs. The heirs look at it. They don't like what they're getting as far as what their payout's going to be. And so they said they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to sign anything. That they were just going to buy the house outright themselves. And we explained to them that there was a mortgage, this and that. So basically, what I did was I followed up with the seller and I said, hey, look, these people are saying, they're kind of related to you. They're saying that they don't want to do it because they don't want to they're only going to make this much on it. When all that happened, I also called the buyer, our end buyer, and I told the end buyer kind of what was going on with the scenario was, and she was like, well, she basically said, well, let me know what you can do. She's like, I don't want to back out yet, and I said, okay. So called the seller again and explained to her, and she was like, well, let me call them. Anyways, we caught them. We tried to make it work. We caught the heirs. We tried to make it work to where it was a win-win for everybody. They just weren't having it. They didn't. They said we're gonna buy it ourselves. And so at that point, we kind of just left it. We left it for about 2 or 3 days, 4 days. And then what I did was I caught the seller and I said, hey, I was like, if I remember, we contracted this about 3 months ago. I was like, so I know there's a mortgage, but have you been paying the loan? And she's like, no. She's like, I think it's almost going to go into foreclosure. So I said, okay, well, can you find out that specific date for me? So she found out that specific date, and it was actually 3 weeks out on the date. It was like December 19th when we found out this. It was like December 1st or something. And so I took that and I spoke with Marco about it, and we ended up calling the heirs, and we explained to them, hey guys, you only have 3 weeks before this goes into foreclosure. You guys are actually entitled now. And so because you're entitled now, if this house gets foreclosed on, it's going to actually hurt your credit and hurt your record. So the best way we can do is move forward with this. Now, you mentioned you weren't happy with the money. And so what we did, we actually took a cut from our assignment fee so that way they can get more get more to their pocket, and to where it was a win-win for everybody and to where we could still close. But throughout this whole time, I was following up with our end buyer because at the end of the day, your end buyer is basically your client. You want to make your end buyers happy. They're our customers. They're the ones that buy from us. So every week I was calling the end buyer and explaining to her, hey, this is how the conversation went today. This is how the conversation went today. So and so said this. We just got to wait on this. And she basically would have backed out if I had not continued to follow up with her. She even said, thank you for your hard work, Aaron. She's like, I don't, we were even willing to give her back her earnest money but she was so confident in how we were handling everything that she felt so confident that we were still going to close. And so I said, okay, well, there's not much I can do other than just kind of keep following up with the sellers. And she was like, that's fine, just keep me in the loop. So finally, the sellers end up calling us back and saying, yeah, that they were good to go with everything, and that they wanted to proceed. So I ended up calling the original seller and told her the same thing. And so basically, because of proper follow up with the sellers, the heirs, and the end buyers, after about 4 months, we finally were able to close on this deal that wasn't even supposed to close because one, the heirs were going to back out, two, the buyer was going to back out. But we ended up getting the heirs back on our side from proper follow up. The original seller, she was always on our side, but we just had to set expectations with her on what we were waiting for. And then the end buyer, we kept her on our side because I followed up every single week with her and let her know what was going on. And finally, when it came to closing, she thanked us a lot just for our hard work and all of that. And so at the end of the day, everybody was happy, and I ended up getting my fourth deal in 6 months because of proper follow up. So proper follow up is important because, like I was saying, it could take 4 months to close, or it could take 6 months, it could take a year. But you never know unless you can continue to follow up. A lead is not dead unless the house is sold, basically.